6:30, and I'm calling to order our regular Elgin City Council meeting on Tuesday, August the 16th, 2022. And we will do our roll call, and we'll start this time with Maldonado.
Maldonado here.
Callahan here.
Rodriguez here.
Dennis here.
Frazier here.
Oh, McShane here.
Kazanovsky here.
Swain here.
All righty, we are all here with the exception of Arthur Gibson, who called me and said he had to work late. And, yeah, go ahead.
May I make a motion to excuse Councilmember Gibson from the meeting tonight?
And I'll second that, Mayor.
All right. Any opposed? I didn't hear any nays, so. Want to start with Callahan?
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes?
Kazanovsky, yes.
Swain, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
And we'll have our invocation by Councilmember Callahan.
Father God, we just thank you so much for today. Just pray that as we go through this council meeting, that we would listen with your ears, Father, and that we would see with your eyes, and that we would interpret appropriately the information that comes across and do the right things for the people of Elgin. We love you and thank you, Father. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
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 We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Jennifer, was it just one? Okay, I thought I saw two. Okay, so now we have our public comment. And to clear up or clarify some confusion or a decision that I made, I had, after our last council meeting, there was a question about why they had, the people who come to talk have to say their name and their address. And we kind of decided, after we thought about it some more, since we are viewing now or live streaming, I'll say their name and make for sure on the form that your address is on the form. And we'll do it that way from now on, okay? All righty, now, so we have for public comment, Courtney Paris.
Can I speak with the agenda item?
Sure. Want to speak with the, she's doing
Sure. The boards and commission.
the, okay. Moving right along. Okay, the budget.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We're here tonight to present the proposed operating budget for all city funds for the coming fiscal year, which starts October 1. I'm really, frankly, excited about this year's budget. We think we've put together a great spending plan that reflects a lot of the success and progress that we've made in the city of Elgin, and we'll go through that here briefly. So our budget is a zero-based balanced budget that where all expenditures, operating expenditures next year are supported by operating revenues. This is a budget, this document we put together with the help and support and input of all department heads and departments. We're always focused on maintaining existing service levels, but obviously these days we're trying to enhance service wherever we can. It's important to know that there's no deficit spending in this budget or any utilization of fund balance or our cash, say, unencumbered balance to balance the budget. But it's definitely predicated on continuing economic viability that we've experienced in Elgin. And actually, this is in my career, this is a very unique budget for the city in that As I said, it reflects, I think in a lot of ways, the prosperity that the city of Elgin has achieved from growth. Although we've faced a lot of challenges that way, it continues to help us stabilize our financial standing. And for it to have one budget that allows for full-year funding of all our positions, adding 18 new positions, increased pay and benefits for all existing employees, continuation of major capital improvements, continuation of what we started this year with street improvements in the older parts of town, and a continuing commitment to equipment and vehicle upgrades. When you can do all that at the same time, that there's no increases in water and sewer rates, and actually recommending a cut in the property tax rate is a pretty significant accomplishment for us. But all of those attributes will be part of this budget this year. So total appropriations for all funds is just shy of $30 million. When we put this budget together, I thought of our Mayor Pro Tem and different people that have been around Elgin for a long time, and I'm sure it wasn't thought of 10 years ago that the city of Elgin could ever afford a $30 million budget, but that's where we're at now. And naturally, the majority of this budget is the general fund, where we pay for most of our services. But as you can see, almost 2/3 of this budget will be focused on services and economic development. I think we all know, we've talked with council about this on a number of occasions, but we continue to monitor our growth in the city. And the calendar year of 2022, we think we're projecting to build probably around 700 new homes by the time the year's out. Council knows that we've talked about, we actually have 10,000 single-family homes in the pipeline, you might say, one form or other. And you use those numbers and do actually conservative calculations, I think if we continue to grow and develop like we are now, we will easily reach 40,000 residents in the next 5 to 7 years. So obviously, residential growth and responding to that growth is an important part of our budget, but we continue to see business development, particularly in the Elgin Business Park. This should be a very active year in the business park. Our retail projects, Circle Brew, Polo Local Grocery. Aviator's Pizza may not be open next year, but they'll certainly start construction. And then, as you see here, we've got actually 5 different companies that will be starting construction in the Elgin Business Park this next year that will bring a minimum of over 100 new full-time jobs to the community. So we're excited about all that. Again, the council's seen this slide before. This is where we stand on our residential development of over 10,000 homes currently in some form of development. We have another almost 4,000 that we've identified that we're looking at concept plans or discussing with developers, but frankly, even these numbers don't reflect all the residential projects that we're having discussions about. So as long as the housing market keeps the pressure it is seeing in the Austin and Central Texas area, I think Elgin's going to continue to see this residential growth. So the general fund is obviously where the city supports all its basic services, and obviously primarily supported by property tax. But again, this coming year, as we've seen the last couple of years, the revenue we're generating for development services is very significant. And it'll be a big piece, obviously, as a piece of the pie next year. Sales tax, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later, is actually, this will be the first year in the city's history where we're actually projecting that sales tax revenue will exceed property tax revenue. Again, that's a massive change from where the city's been just a few years ago, but it's just part of our growth pattern and what we see in the future. I want to talk about our property tax a little bit. We kind of make this speech or have this conversation every year, but I think it's important to remind people that when we talk about property taxes in Texas, when people express concern about property taxes, I know they're referring to their property tax bill, the bill that they have to pay. But the way the system works in Texas, there's multiple players that are involved in establishing what that tax bill actually ends up being. So in the city's case, it's important to understand that the only thing the city council controls about property taxes is setting the tax rate. The system here in Texas is intentionally divided, so there's different players making different decisions. So we need to focus on the tax rate, and it's important for folks to understand that's all the council can do, is try to set the tax rate in a way that supports the services we need, but is conscious of the cost to taxpayers. This is a slide I've shown before that just gives you a quick snapshot of actually how property taxes are divided up. And for the average Elgin taxpayer, property owner taxpayer, only less than 25 cents of every property tax dollar paid goes to the city for all the services that we provide. Naturally, like every locality in Texas, the lion's share of property taxes goes to the school district, but I'd like to just make this note every year that Elgin taxpayers pay almost the same to Bastrop County as they do to the city of Elgin. And obviously, I feel like we definitely provide the services to our residents here. So with this budget, I'm pleased to say that we're proposing a significant reduction in our tax rate from where it was this year, almost 5 cents off the tax rate to down to the voter approval rate. The staff's heard me. I'll give you my rant about this too, that voter approval label is what we're compelled by state law to call this tax rate. I don't believe there's ever been a time in Elgin or any other city, frankly, in Texas, where the voters have actually voted to approve this tax rate. We have to call it the voter approval rate because that's what the legislature came up with. So I feel like that's a little misleading, but anyway, that's why we use that label. But we're proposing a tax rate of just under 55 cents. And this is actually 4 cents lower than what the council could approve with that. We could go much higher on our tax rate without triggering an election by the people, but we're satisfied that we can meet our service levels that we want to achieve this year with this lower tax rate. So we're recommending that we go with this lower tax rate as kind of a one-time opportunity for the city. We're kind of at a moment in time where our revenues are strong in other areas. We continue to anticipate growth that will generate additional revenue. As I said earlier, our sales tax is very strong, and we anticipate that moving forward. Because the council made the decision to fund our certificates of obligation program last year, we're in solid position as far as having the funds necessary to move forward with capital improvements, so we don't need to depend on operating funds this year. And then this obviously is an opportunity for us at this time to do our part, to do what we can within the system that we have to work with under to provide a break that we can to property taxpayers here in town. So and I also want to point out that with this lower tax rate, that'll mean over the last 2 years, the city of Elgin has reduced its tax rate by 17% over a 2-year period. I think that's a pretty significant accomplishment, and especially the fact that we think we're going to be able to do it and continue to grow and enhance services. This is a graph that shows our sales tax history, that shows actually how strong our sales tax been, how our growth has been, steady growth over the last 10 years, but certainly over the last 5 years, we've seen significant growth every year in our sales tax. And so that's why we're projecting this year that the combined sales tax that goes to the city's general fund and goes to the EDC, that combined total amount is just over 3.7 million, and that is actually more than what we project to take in property tax this year. So I think that's a really strong statement for us and for our business community in Texas, given the systems we have here. I don't know that there's a better measuring stick for commercial and retail businesses for a city to measure rather than sales tax. And because our sales tax continues to grow, we know, we hear comments, we know some people keep bugging us about having sit-down restaurants come to town. And we know we want more, but these numbers clearly indicate the city is continuing to strengthen itself and business is doing good in Elgin. I just want to show these slides. It's in the message. Council's seen these before, and we've had updates, but again, this will be another big year for our capital improvements, for many different projects we're funding through COs. We've made great progress in already finishing some of those projects, and they continue to move forward. Major projects of our wastewater treatment plant, County Line Road, and the new police station. We're hopeful that all of those will be completed in the, if not in the fiscal year, but in the 2023 calendar year. So we not only are putting good use to that important funding, but we're doing it in a pretty quick manner. So again, the good news about this as far as the budget goes, it really relieves pressure on the current year budget to have to fund capital improvements. So this graph gives you a snapshot of where we see general fund expenditures. As I said earlier, these are general fund, which is primarily supported by property taxes, is where the city funds its basic services that we need to provide every year. And as you might imagine, 60% of this budget is focused on public safety and public works. And again, all of these departments are growing in both personnel, compensation to existing staff, and equipment and services. So it's a very robust budget, and we're very confident that we'll be able to continue to evolve the operation. Another good thing with this year's budget, a challenge that the city faces, like every employer does right now, is recruiting and retaining good employees. We're in the service business, and the only way that we increase or enhance those services is with good staff and increased personnel. And it's not only comes to recruiting new people, but it also comes to retaining good people. So although the analysis shows, some analysis shows the CPI in the last year or so has gone up 7, 8, 9, 10%. We think a 5% increase across the board for all employees is significant. It's probably as large as we've done in a long time, but also important to note that within each departmental budget, we also have funding that will allow for further adjustments in pay as we move forward. Part of our challenge as it relates to recruiting and retaining good staff is that we're actually in a situation where our mid-level pay ranges are competitive, but our starting pay and the pay at the top end is not competitive with other local governments in the area. So we've also set aside money for that we'll be addressing as the year goes on, and we'll circle back to council when we make that decision. We also included in the budget an increase in health benefits that we the increase in our premiums. Our existing plan is we don't anticipate any increase, frankly, in the existing plan, but we'd like to enhance those benefits that are reflective of the feedback we're getting from our employees. So we're not quite ready to make the decision about exactly how we'll enhance that plan, but we have set aside the money in the budget that will allow us to do that. That too, again, will come back to council at a future date to brief you on. Staffing, as we all know, our staffing is, as I said earlier, is a challenge. We continue to have vacancies. We continue to try to recruit good folks, but we've also added new positions in next year's budget, a total of 18 new positions as shown on this list. Obviously, we continue to focus on public safety and public works, but all our services need more staff so we can provide more services to more people. So these are, and our total staffing now is 170, it will be 172 full-time positions. We also know that while we'll have some vacancies, we've benefited in the past from creating salary savings in the budget by full year funding all of these positions. So obviously, we won't have all this staff on board October 1, but that actually creates some flexibility for the staff and the council later in the year. A couple other things just to mention real quick that we, in both cases, an equipment fund, we kind of had done this last year and we decided to do it again this year, that we actually have, all the staff had submitted requests for various vehicles and equipment. And because of certain time constraints, we didn't really have an opportunity to completely vet all of those requests. So we basically just included a fund in the budget that's reflective of the amounts that were requested by the staff. But we're going to circle back before we make specific purchases of that equipment. That too we'll bring back to the council at a future date. We have a list of that equipment. It's not just a round number that makes up that number, but we haven't specifically talked about every piece of equipment we're going to buy, but we've set aside the funding to do that. And then also, I know council recalled this current year, we actually, it was the first time we made a major commitment to funding street improvements and what I've referred to in the budget as the original town area. That's not really defined by a line, but I think I assume we kind of all know where we mean downtown. And we want to really step up our commitment to road improvements and traffic and safety in the downtown area. And frankly, this is another example of how growth and development is creating the funds that we can, out on County Line Road and areas like that we can bring back to town and invest for our existing residents. So this year, there's a set aside of $500,000 that we have yet to spend. Our city engineer has recommended that the best time to bid that project is in August and September, so we're fixing to do that very soon for this year. But we've put another $500,000 in next year's budget, so hopefully we'll just get on an annual cycle where every year we'll be doing major street improvements. But now that we've got this set up, we'll probably be doing that in August and September of every year. But this too is like we did before. Once we haven't yet made any specific decisions about what the next round of streets will be to be added and addressed, and we'll do that during the year and come back to council with that. So this is, that's generally a quick run through of the budget. We had a really unique situation this year that I want to share with the council that frankly is an unusual situation than what I had ever run into before in my career, and that we just had a weird sequence of events that really kind of undermined our normal process for developing this budget. We started since Charles Cunningham left as Director of Finance, we got into the start of the budget season, and Misty Knock was our interim finance director. We were going to carry that through, get through the budget season before we made a decision about finance director. Misty, though, got an opportunity for a better job, and so she left the city, I suppose, in late May or June. So that kind of put us in a spot. We reached out to our auditor, and our auditor had recommended an individual to come in and help us on an interim basis. We got him started. He was doing a great job, but after a couple weeks, he had a family emergency that caused him he couldn't continue his commitment to us. He left. I'm getting down my timing now. Now we're into July. I get COVID. I'm out for a week. The deadline's approaching quicker. HR finds Marty Corsi through SGR, a firm that does HR for an interim basis to help out cities in situations like this. Marty, stand up so everybody can see you. So Marty came on board and helped us out and jumped on board. And then it was about that time, I guess, I got back from COVID, and once after a few days and the fog cleared, I could get back to work. And then my team of Jennifer and Pam and Dodie just stepped up to the plate and came to me and said, we're glad you're feeling better, but, you know, you need to get out of the way now. We're going to take this budget to the finish line, and that's what they did. And it's a situation where none of them really had any in-depth experience in doing the budget. But this is what you get when you have a professional organization, a professional team. I didn't order them to do this. I didn't direct them to do it. They knew we had an issue. They knew I needed some help, and they stepped up to the plate, jumped into this with both feet. And so that's why their name's on the front of this budget. You usually don't see those kind of names on there, but they need to own it. And of course, this is a big setup for if you find any mistakes. But no, I just, it was really important to acknowledge them and all the work they did, and they spent long hours here to make us look good. And so it's important to me that council know we had that unusual situation, but I really appreciate the effort they made, and I'm proud of what we're presenting tonight. So with that, we are looking forward to the rest of the year. We started to think about how we were going to get the budget calendar, and then if y'all recall, certainly the carryover council members remember, once we get into October and November, we had some conflicts we had dealt with before. So one kind of unique thing or an odd thing that hasn't happened before is that our regular schedule for September would have our council meeting on the 6th and on the 20th. But this year, the ICMA conference for me is actually conflicts with that day on the 20th. So the mayor and I discussed this today. And so we can move our second meeting in September to the 27th. Now, we've already, because of these other things, National Night Out, the TML conference, Dia de los Muertos. See, I worked on that today. I did. The mayor and I, neither one could say it today. But so that's November 1st and Election Day. So really, the only change in this schedule is we're changing the September 20th meeting to a week later, the 27th. But because we'd already made these other changes, then we're still pretty much on an every 2-week schedule basically into mid-November. So I'll make sure I send this out to everybody. You can adjust your schedules accordingly. But we do have, well, like I said, these other dates we anticipated when we set the schedule this year, and I already moved back the October and November meetings. So that'll be our schedule moving forward. But so we do have on this schedule, and it's obviously work sessions are always going to be tentative whenever we can get council together. But when we started the schedule at the beginning of the year, we had set aside next Tuesday for our first work session, and then September 13th for the second session. Just trying to stick to the Tuesday schedule if that works for everybody. But I don't know if anybody's had any thoughts or comments about those work sessions. But we can always do as many or as few as you want. So, but like I said, in the end, our budget this year is for us, it's a very strong one. I've been there, and I know the other council members have been here for a while, where you're now the council's at this point, we're trying to figure out what part hurts the least to cut. And this year, fortunately, we're not facing that. And we think we have everything we've included. We think across the board, we've been appropriately liberal with the expenditures and appropriately conservative with the revenues. And we still come out with a very positive outlook for next year. So as we talked about the staff, this moment's always really anticlimactic for us because we do all this effort putting the budget together, and then we put it on your plate tonight and want to talk about it, but I know the council's just seen it for the first time tonight. So if you have any general questions off the top of your head, I'd be glad to answer those. But I think now you'll have to have time to study it, and we'll figure out when we can get together on a work session.
Joy?
I think Tom, you said that sales tax revenue is projected to be more than property tax?
Uh-huh.
But if I'm reading the numbers right, it seems that the sales tax are still less than property tax. If you go to slide,
Yeah, well, we split the property tax right at the top. Part of that goes to the general fund and part of it goes to EDC. So if you take those two numbers and combine them together, they'll actually be more. Right, that's the general fund number.
That's how much goes into the general fund? Is that what you're
That's
saying?
right.
oh, look at it.
This graph is, well, let's see, expenditures, let me get back to the revenue. Yes. So the projection for, on the EDC side is about 1.5 million or something. The 2.39 is only the portion that goes to the general fund.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, if you combine those two together, that's what makes it the bigger number. And again, I think that, I'll just say this as we're saying it, is that while those funds go directly to the EDC, as the council knows, anything the EDC does, any money they spend, the council is the final say on that. And of course, the information we track from the state comes total sales tax. So that's why. And even that can be confusing because the state, for some reason, although every entity in Texas has a October to September fiscal year, for whatever reason, the state tracks it by calendar year. So the numbers can be a little confusing when you look at their reports and ours. But yeah, that's why you have to combine those two numbers to get to my point. Overall sales tax in town will exceed property tax.
Any other questions?
We need some time to relish the ladies' work.
So we're, I think, again, for our newer members, we're glad to answer. You don't have to wait for the work session if you have questions, or even if you want to meet with the staff, we're more than willing to do that. I think like our work sessions too, frankly, we'll, when we get together, we'll be wanting council members to give us some feedback on what subjects they want to talk about. But we're more than happy for you to review all the information, be glad to try to answer any questions. But yeah, it's going to take a little while to study.
Okay.
And just for the record, our charter, this is, appreciate everyone tolerating, we had to delay this for a couple weeks, but I think today's the deadline for when, by the charter, when we had to have the budget done, so we stretched it out to the end, but we're in compliance, so. All right, Mayor, unless there's any other question about the budget, I don't really have anything else in my report, unless anybody had any questions for me.
Nothing on the activity report?
Nothing on that one.
Oh, okay. All right. Nothing to update us on.
No, but we already did our public comments, but it'd be okay to talk about in this report. Did you have something you were going to deliver to us tonight?
Yes.
We had a little confusion, I'm sorry, but let me open up and I'll, since for the record, we can say, if you're all right with this, Mayor,
Okay.
I'm asking the gentleman to speak, but it's not public comments, but we had, and I forget your wife's name. Tammy. If you may remember, Tammy appeared as a resident of Peppergrass neighborhood, and it really was about when school ended last year. She was the lady that came to us and talked about what we'd heard from other residents about parking issues in the Peppergrass neighborhood with students at the high school parking there and causing some problems with the neighborhood, and we'd heard a number of complaints and concerns that way. So when Tammy and I spoke about it after the meeting, I shared with her that it's a challenge for us because of the, again, our limitation on public safety and staffing, that we couldn't give the focus to that neighborhood to really control that issue. But the chief and I had talked about it, and we had suggested that one possibility might be that we just, the council declare no parking on those streets and on a street over there for anybody. But obviously, that would include the residents there and might cause problems for them as well. So what I suggested to Tammy was that if you can go up and down your street and get every resident on that street to say they're fine with certain timeframes being restricted, that they would live, and that they would live by those same rules themselves, then that might be something that the council would be willing to consider. And follow what I'm saying? No parking between 7 and 10 in the morning or something like that. But of course, from the PD standpoint, we don't have the time to stop and check every car to see if it's a student or resident there. But if all the residents agreed that it was a problem, and that she could produce a petition that said that all the residents agreed to that kind of restriction, that might be something the council would consider. So
Yeah.
she's busy, or she
Yeah.
sent her husband here to
That's what happens.
get to the mayor. So anyway, I don't know if you have more to share.
Can you tell me what your name is before you, because I don't want to call you Tammy.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, my name is Ronald, and yeah, should I give you my address or something, or no?
You don't have to do your address, just.
can.
Yeah.
You can if you want to, but I'm sure your name's on here somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, she worked really hard doing that in the last couple of weeks, and pretty much we got everyone on there. Well, she got everyone on there, and yeah, except for one resident that was on the street for Ballard's Drive, and she went multiple times, and they were never home pretty much. But yeah, she got, I say, a good amount there for sure.
So obviously, there isn't anything for council to do tonight, but that's the conversation we had, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. And I do think she did mention it's already started up again, I guess.
Yeah.
There's some issues out there, so staff will take a look at this and circle back with the council on a recommendation for it, unless you have any other thoughts.
Is there a homeowner association in there?
There is, and we engaged them. Tammy tried to engage them. They're very supportive of this. Basically, it's reflective of the residents we've talked to. But again, we really think from a PD standpoint, this is about the only thing we can offer as a way to respond. But at the same time, it seems as simple. If everybody lives on the street, everybody owns a house on the street, is okay with a rule like this, then it'd be a way for us to deal with it. Jody told me when she was here, just go out there and tow a few cars, and then the kids will get over it. And so we had to tell her, well, we kind of got to have the law in place before we can start towing cars. So hopefully that's what'll happen, is once the word gets out, it won't be a big enforcement thing. But everybody we've heard from there supports this. The HOA has told us they support it, but they're not exactly active.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
What's
Thank
your
you.
last name?
Stewart.
Stewart, okay, thank you.
Would I be able to speak? I live on Dallas.
Sure, that's out of order, but we'll let you do it this time. I don't want you to come all the way here for nothing.
I kept his wife hostage at my house.
Oh,
And they came over to talk to me. So my name is Doreen Sims, and I am a new neighbor. We've been here, we closed our house about a year ago at the end of this month. And we absolutely love the new neighborhood. It is wonderful. My daughter is loving Elgin, and we're really excited about being here. There are some concerns about what is happening with the high school, and we would really like to work together with the high school and city council to really get our neighbors involved. And I think one of the things that would be really good for us is obviously the signs that have some limitations, and I signed as well, and I agreed that if we could have the no parking signs up, but there has been some vandalism. And there is vandalism on, I believe, one of the electrical, I don't know what those things are called, the green electrical things between the houses. And so there was some vandalism there, but there's also been some threats. And then there's been some racing and then them jumping the fence. And so I really would like to have a deeper conversation, if we could, at some time to deal with, I think it would be good that we have the street signs up, but with the incidents that happened over the weekend, in the area that involved pepper grass, with the police coming and with the widening of the road. My house is literally on the corner of County Line and Raymond Johnson. And so I will get the road closer to me on both sides. So there are some things that we should, work with and deal with. And I think it would be good for us to get to. I know that all of us who are moving in are all new to Elgin and are coming from different areas around the Austin area, so I think it would be good. And I'm sorry, I'm wearing my sunglasses. My glasses broke, and these are prescription, so I couldn't see you.
I don't want to see your eyes. No.
But I have brown eyes. But I think it would be good at some time, for us. We're really excited about the neighborhood, and I would love for our neighborhood to really get involved with the rest of the city instead of just being like a one-off. And so at some point, I was thinking of maybe even having like a fall get-together on our cul-de-sac and inviting you guys to come over and meet us. So.
So
after
we're always glad to meet, and talk about it. I think when we hear, I hope y'all aren't hesitating to call the police when some of those things happen. We can't do anything about it unless we call the police, so I encourage you to do that. But
We
the
have.
staff's always willing to meet, and I know the mayor is trying to push forward ward meetings like this, and typically HOAs have a meeting, and if your HOA has a meeting, would like to invite the staff, the council, we'd be glad to come, so.
So we're
open
still
up.
beholden to the builder. So the builder hasn't finished out the third and the last quarter, and so until they do, we cannot form an HOA board. And so that's why I was thinking something less formal, because we want to do a community meet and get to know our neighbors.
We're always open to that, just
Okay.
let me know.
Shoot me an email so I can.
Tom, may I say something?
Yes.
I'm a school district employee, and I can assure you that the district is willing to have a conversation with you about what we can and can't do with regards to our students who are misbehaving, who are vandalizing, who are being disrespectful. Like the police in the city, we have restrictions that we have to follow and laws, but we're more than willing to dialogue with you about whatever possibilities there may be. And you can
Yeah.
certainly reach out to us, and I'll be happy to set up a meeting.
Yeah, definitely. I've been mentoring one of the students from the high school and trying to get them into art and college. And so, yes, definitely. And I understand that the church has built a little driveway between the city, there and then as well as the high school. So I'm hoping that that is helpful. I understand that there's not a driving school in and around here. So, I don't know. My background, before I became disabled, my background was PR and marketing. And so I did some quick research, and I have some ideas about that as well. So we can help those who are struggling, maybe do some type of program where we can help them obtain the proper license and the, things. So I have a lot of ideas.
I'm sorry, we're getting a little.
Yeah, I know.
Technically.
Okay.
We'll be glad to meet, and I just want to say that the school district has been engaged in these conversations. I mean, this particular issue came up last spring, so yeah, as Councilman Rodriguez said, everybody's trying. We just got to try to keep between the lines,
Yeah.
but we're probably getting off track here with the agenda, so.
Well, thank you for going off script, and nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, nice to meet you. Okay, consent agenda. I'll move it on fast. We have our city council regular meeting, August the 2nd, and our work session meeting from August the 2nd as well. A resolution of the city council of the city of Elgin, Texas, to approve a service agreement with Bastrop County to provide dispatching services to the Elgin Police Department and to authorize the mayor to execute said agreement. Then number 4 is a resolution of the city of Elgin, Texas, authorizing an amendment to the Aqua WSC Master Agreement for transfer of the Eagles Landing Phase 5 Water CCN service area from Aqua to WSC to the city of Elgin and making certain findings related thereto. Do we have anything we want to pull?
Yes, Mayor. Can we pull number 3? I'm not against it, I'd just like to have a little more information.
Okay, we'll pull number 3. Anybody else? Do we have a motion for the rest of it?
So moved, Mayor.
Second? Chuck second. Swain seconds, and Brazier made the motion, so we'll start with Brazier.
Frazier, yes?
Teresa, McShane, yes?
Kaznowski, yes.
Swain, yes?
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Swain?
I read the whole thing there. I'm not against it. I would just like to have a little background, if you could do that, Tom, for why we're using Bastrop versus Elgin. I understand the equipment cost, and I know, is that the reason that we're doing all of this, using those guys?
Yeah, I think it's really, it probably was in the end the challenge of getting staff, getting qualified and keeping staff. Certainly the equipment was a big issue, and that's why we made the conscious decision not to invest in that in the new police station. But it was cost. It was we really struggled to find staff. We reached a point where half the time we were having to rely on the county anyway. And frankly, I don't blame them for saying, we don't mind helping out, but when we're doing your dispatching half the time or something, we got to have a contract. So, but I would say that there's a reason why we're doing these on an annual basis. Because of where we're at, where we're located, we have an opportunity to work with Travis County as well. And I know the chief has discussed that with them, but I'd say, unless the chief has anything more to share, in the end, it ain't, equipment's a lot, but in the end, it was really as much a struggle getting qualified people to come here and work and dependable people that could do a good job. And so,
So with the new police station, we're still not planning on,
it won't have a communication center in it. You get both that, and that's what's different about it, helps us keep the cost down, but both communications and any kind of holding cells, jail cells, they won't be in the new building.
can we consider that for the municipal complex and whenever we go that route?
Oh, yeah, I would tell you that, and I think the chief agrees with this, I always prefer having your own dispatch. I probably don't want to get the mayor pro tem started on this, but
I'm waiting.
But it's like any service, it's better for us, I think, to have our own dispatch, but it's just kind of a point in time issue that a number of issues came together. So we really view this as I think, as almost a temporary measure. Now, it might last a few years, but eventually it would be our goal to work towards our own dispatch.
As long as it stays temporary, because the citizens here deserve our own dispatch center so we can have quick response times. And that's always been my stand, and I'll stick by it. And there are other ways around funding, because that's what I do in my real job. There are grants and funding available, so I don't want us to lose that.
And I would say too that we, it's like anything, that's why this countywide system works, is because there's a lot of entities contributing and no one entity is paying for it. So in Elgin's case, part of that evolution should be, I think, that the fire department would join us. We don't know where EMS is going, so having a dispatch solely for the police department would be really expensive for us. But we used to do that jointly, but the fire department made the decision to pull out a few years ago. They were paying us to run their dispatch. Now, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but again, as we look down the road and as we all continue to grow, we're going to have multiple, likely, I think, police stations or public safety buildings. We're going to have a lot of staff, so I think it'll be a natural evolution where we'll get back to that eventually.
Chief brought up a good point. Is there a time delay between initial call and response that's significant? from when somebody picks up the phone before Elgin gets the phone call?
I'd have to say that depends on the tower in Binghamton.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we've talked about is when you're in a small town and it's part of a regional type system, as people call in and say, where Miss Jones used to live by that tree that looks funny, and people are from here, they know where that is. But if you're frankly in downtown Austin, or you don't know where that is, so you do lose a little bit of that service a little bit. But actually, again, I think, Chief, jump up if I'm not saying it right, but we think the service we had versus what we have now is clearly better. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that our service had got to a point where it wasn't doing the job. Chief, did I hit it? Okay.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Swain and second by Dennis. And we will start with Swain.
Yes. Swain, yes, sorry.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Fraser, yes.
McShane, yes.
Chesnowski, yes.
Okay, motion carries. And we'll move to new business. The first thing on there is a resolution of the City of Elgin, Texas, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with FGM Architects Incorporated for design services related to the Elgin Police Department Station renovation and expansion project, and making certain findings related to thereto.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, as you know, we've been talking about our new police station project that we're very excited about and continue to move forward on. If you may recall, again, I think a lot of this information here was right before the new council came on board, but this slide is from our original presentation. The council authorized us moving forward with our estimated cost for the whole project at about $4.7 million. We have $3.5 million from the COs that we set aside for that project, and then we were recommended and council approved utilization of about half of our ARPA money to support this project and fund it entirely. So as part of our engagement with FGM Architects, they did a phase one plan, which you saw earlier, which is this is the end result of their work. And we're doing a construction manager at risk project. So as you remember, council authorized the preferred firm there, and so we're at the stage where we're moving forward with final design plans so we can move forward with construction. And I just show this sheet. This came from the original. This engagement that it's the subject matter of this resolution tonight is for just over $500,000 for all final design services. Actually, the $35,000 listed here, the city's already paid. That was for the preliminary design. But this will complete the project, get us to final design. We feel really good about the project moving forward with our construction manager and architect. We're still, unlike a lot of problems people are facing today, we're still pretty optimistic at this point that we're going to hit our number and build the project we want to build. With this authorization tonight, we'll move forward with final design plans. We're hopeful to have those ready by the end of the calendar year and be under construction by the end of the calendar year. And then it's probably a 10 or 11-month construction project. So we're on track now to have the new police station open and occupied by the end of the 23 calendar year. So we're really excited about it. But this is the same firm that you've seen before. We've continued to work with. It's just the next step in the engagement, and it fits the budget.
Any questions, discussion?
Mayor, Mayor, I'll make a motion to pass the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Brazier and second by Maldonado. And we'll start with Brazier.
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes?
Tesmanowski, yes.
Swain, yes?
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Motion carries. The next one is the second amendment to the Economic Development Agreement between the City of Elgin Economic Development Corporation and Circle Brewing Company LLC.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is a recommendation from the EDC and the EDC Board. Obviously, we're all excited about the Circle Brewing project that is moving forward to completion, and the EDC has negotiated some new terms on some incentives to help support this project. I'll let Owen.
Sure, yeah, really, these new terms came up because of just a lot of things going on. As we all know, there's been COVID, there's been delays in supply chains, there's been problems finding contractors, the weather has been really bad, rain, snowstorms, everything else. This project originally started off at about $1.4, $1.5 million. Their costs have gone up to close to $4 million. And it's extended because they can't, because of all these, what I call the perfect storm, really. It's just been a bad time. So the EDC decided that they would step up. They needed about $202,000 to kind of get this project to the finish line. The EDC were comfortable doing $125,000 to move this project to the end, and so they can open and start making some cash. The way it's going to work is what the EDC does, rather than being a bank and giving them a loan, and me doing all the paperwork, I'm not a banker, we actually buy a certificate of obligation from, we're going to do it through Frontier Bank. And so we put down $125,000 to purchase this certificate of obligation. The bank loans Circle Brew the dollars, and then they pay it back over 5 years. If it's not paid back during those 5 years, or if they renege on this loan, we will stop any other incentives we have going out to Circle Brew. We have an agreement where we reimburse them sales tax and so on over 5 years. So if this is not paid, then they do not get the incentives. So we're hoping that this will get them there. Just heard from Ben Sable, who's actually here tonight, one of the owners, that they got the other dollars that they needed, the extra 70-odd thousand. So pretty excited. We're hoping you guys will approve this tonight, get this moving forward, and just get the project done. So if there's any questions.
Is Santa Claus going to be at Circle Brew this year? Okay, good.
Mayor, as sitting on the EDC board, I just want to let all of y'all know that it was a unanimous decision with the board to pass this, that we have done this in the past with Schlotzsky's, the most recent business that we have helped along. 12, Schlotzsky's is still here. And Circle Brew is an established company that I'm really, really excited to be here. So you know, that was my thoughts with the unanimous vote from the board.
And I'd just like to say that Ben is committed to actually move his operations from Austin to Elgin, and he's bought a residence in the area, and so he's really committed to living here and growing here and really setting roots. And this is an investment back into our community by doing this.
Is there an estimated completion opening date?
Yeah, they're heading for November, I would say, Ben. It's open by Christmas, we're crossing fingers. Yeah.
Santa Claus, really?
I'll
dress
just
up as
say
Santa
that
Claus.
I know Ben's run into so many problems in the past, he's now paranoid about saying an opening date. So. But we think he's going to be done by then, so we're excited about it. And just for the record, this is all EDC money, not
This
the
is all
city,
EDC money.
Not the city general fund money.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this amendment that the Economic Development Corporation is presented to us this evening.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dennis and second by Rodriguez. So we'll start with Dennis.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes?
McShane, yes?
Kaznowski, yes.
Swain, yes?
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks,
Okay,
Ben.
the last thing is an ordinance establishing general rules and procedures, including appointments, term limits, and related matters for all boards and commissions of the city of Elgin, Texas, repealing all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for a savings clause. Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Courtney Paris, would you want to come and speak? See, I told you, I'm still learning.
Good. Good evening. My name is Courtney Paris, and I'm here to comment on the revisions to the ordinance to establish rules and procedures for boards and commissions. I reviewed the new ordinance, and I see that section 8.7 of the previous ordinance has been removed in the latest draft. This section states that any member of a board or commission whose term is expiring must repeat the application process to be considered for another term. I was at the work session a couple weeks ago, and based on that, it's my understanding that this section is being removed to accommodate the preferences of a single individual who has threatened to leave the board he currently serves on if he's asked to complete this application. So I just looked at the current application in order to understand why this is such an arduous process. And so the application is 2 pages. The first page is just basic contact information, listing your preferences if you're applying for multiple boards, and then just explaining why you would like to serve. The second page is a series of attestations that you meet the requirements. There's like either a residency or an property ownership requirement, being registered to vote, that sort of thing. There's also attestations with regard to like neither you nor your employer has any business dealings with the city of Elgin that would represent a conflict of interest. So that kind of stuff, it's very just check the box, yes or no. So I also learned at the work session that it appears that the city doesn't do any sort of due diligence to evaluate whether these individuals meet the requirements of the ordinance. And so this application, which the applicant signs, that's kind of the only due diligence you're doing is just, okay, we believe what this person's saying. So just kind of thinking about that, I don't think that this application process is an undue burden on individuals who wish to serve on boards and commissions. So I hope that you'll either reconsider removing it or putting some other procedures in place to verify, that people meet the requirements of the board before you appoint them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So
Thank you,
correct
Mayor.
me if I'm wrong, didn't we say they still had to
Yeah,
send
I
an
would just,
email or something in order to let us know they still wanted to run? They
yeah,
didn't
just
have to.
want to say a couple things. Number one, that we didn't eliminate that section from, we struck that out and reinserted it down under section 9 of the ordinance, which stipulates that they must repeat the application process. So it's still in there. All we did was add to it that, or submit their interest of reappointment in writing. And in that part of I think through that letter, they can say they comply with the rule. And I don't agree with the statement that the city doesn't do its due diligence on these applications. We trust people are telling us the truth. We don't go around to verify, are they really residents? Have they paid all their taxes? So I don't consider that us not doing our due diligence to check it out, and I don't know that we've ever had a problem that way. So obviously, if the council wants us to do that, we can, but I think it's very reasonable that we expect people to know the rules and to tell us they're in compliance with the rules, and unless there's a valid reason, we don't question that. So the first part, I think there's some confusion. We moved section 8 down to the part about with the uniform appointment schedule. So that information's still in there. It still stipulates that you have to express an interest in writing. And, but I will say it's probably worth it to tell them to put another sentence in that letter to say, I comply with all the rules, if that's what we want to do. But again, I don't think we have to necessarily change the ordinance to do that. And I would just say that the ordinance that we've included in the packet that's on the agenda tonight is, in my recollection, at least the second time most of this council has gone through this ordinance line by line, section by section, word by word. We went through every section at our work session, so, and we actually asked for the mayor and Councilmember Kozlowski to review the staff's notes, and they had no changes, so I'm confident this ordinance reflects what the council said they wanted to do.
Me too. Okay, council, any more discussion on this? I think we beat this horse into a stable.
I'm gonna say we beat it to death, but I got one more question.
Okay. Go for it.
On Section 8 term limits, I know we've got 2 boards that have 3-year terms.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to have in here 2 full-year, 2-term limits? Can we just say 2 full term limits?
Yeah, well, again, obviously, the council's action in this ordinance is gonna take precedent over any group's bylaws or rules. So really, what we've kind of been waiting for is for the council to decide, here's what our basics are gonna be, and then we're gonna ask those groups to change their bylaws to reflect, to be consistent with this
Well,
ordinance.
I'm okay with those
Yeah, I,
things being 3-year terms. I'm not against that. I just, for grammatical thing, do we need to have, say, 2 2-year terms?
well, again, I think we've all realized the challenge we've had as we started out, this whole thing started out years ago to try to create some consistency. What's the terms, what's the appointments, and we have learned in that process that there's some adjustments need to be made on both sides. That's why we're still talking it to death, but to make sure it's consistent. But that's our plan at this point. We're gonna, whatever the ordinance says, we're gonna go back to the various groups and make their bylaws be consistent with the ordinance.
7 years ago.
7, okay.
I was there.
And I would just say, my understanding, the mayor and I talked about this today, so by adopting this ordinance tonight, that I think what we talked about the work session too, is that we'll schedule the appointments themselves for that September 27th meeting. And then, so council, obviously, we have 6 weeks now to figure out who those appointments should be and what they'll be, and we'll have that on the agenda then, and then the new groups can hit the ground running on October, just like the ordinance says.
With the recommendation from the chairs.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So the mayor is forwarded this to the chairs?
Yeah, we're gonna give it to the chairs and give them their opportunity. And then hopefully they'll do a quick runaround, or turnaround, I should say. They might have to run around too, I don't know. But anyway, we're gonna get this done and over with. So
And just one thing to answer to Mr. Swain's comments. I think Section 13 actually allows for, if a board really feels compelled that 3 years is a mandatory thing, that we can make that waiver for that specific board. I mean, that's why 13 is there.
Again, all this, I think it's imperative that we remember, these are council committees. And the council sets the rules, and the council that's the council's job to decide what's best for the city. So we want to have rules and guidelines to follow. But I wouldn't want anybody to think we're ever in a situation where the council says we have to do this. That's exactly what that section does. It gives us the ability to make these one-off decisions that are in the best interest of the city at that time.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion. I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Kavanaski. Ooh, I get that. You haven't been doing enough. I have your name right here. And second by Brazier. Okay, Kavanaski.
Kaznowski, yes.
Kavanaski, okay.
Swain, yes.
Maldonado, yes.
Callahan, yes.
Rodriguez, yes.
Dennis, yes?
Frazier, yes.
McShane, yes.
We finally put this to bed.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, we voted on it once
To the
before.
next step.
Okay. have nothing to talk about in executive session. So announcements? Oh, she's already up.
I was fixing to say Founder's Day, and she stood up first.
Well, now, y'all, it's only this one time. 150 years, we don't get to do it again. Found out today that Mr. Mattis got to celebrate a sesquicentennial already in his lifetime, but he was only 8. So we're really glad he's getting to do it again because it's a whole different experience. And he did live in Ohio, which is certainly a much more elderly state when we think about it. So.
We're still riding horses.
But it is unlikely that you'll celebrate another sesquicentennial. And so we hope that you will make a big effort to come out on Saturday. It's from 10 to 2 at BTW. But the next most important thing that you need to know is that you want to take the shuttle. The Elgin Independent School District is providing shuttles all day. They're going to run in a constant cycle. We have 3 buses, and you'll get to visit with your neighbors, and you'll be comfortable, and you won't be very frustrated about not being able to find a parking space. As we all know, BTW is an elementary school campus. It has limited parking in the first place. So please take the shuttle. Have a great time doing it. There's a really fun additional event called Founders Day Bingo that'll be happening on Saturday, and you can get those cards at the shuttle stop. When you get on the shuttle, you'll get your bingo card, and you can get a bingo card at BTW. Ultimately, if you have fun with that game, you're going to be eligible to win some cool prizes. So lots of details online, and thanks to everybody for all your support in helping make a cool birthday celebration happen. Do y'all have any questions?
Where do you get the shuttle?
At the museum. Thank you, Councilmember Kozlowski. At the museum, which is 14 Depot Square in the downtown district. Park anywhere downtown, and then the museum is at Main and Depot Streets. And there are many parking lots in downtown. Huge amount of parking. So we should all be in good shape. Don't let anything stand in your way of coming to celebrate.
When are the shuttles starting?
9:20.
Those of us that show up at 7:30.
You're on an early volunteer list, Councilmember Swain, and you have a parking pass. Yeah. Which, by the way, we do have a few spots left for volunteers, and we would be glad to talk to you. Regardless of when you're available on Saturday, if you'd like to come after the big birthday party and help pack up, nobody ever wants to stay and help clean after a party. But we'd be really glad to have you. And then Friday night, of course, there's some overall setup happening, so lots of places to plug in if you want to come volunteer, and you just might get a perk on Saturday related to parking.
Amy, I've been asked to ask again, the gala, black tie, regular tie?
Oh, just as dressed up as you'd like to be on a guy part. I think women are pretty excited and are wearing sequins. Okay. All right. Thanks, y'all.
So, I'm sorry. I'd like to add, some of you have volunteered to usher on Saturday, and I really appreciate that. If you have not, you still have time to do that, and Amy will get you the parking pass. But we are having a volunteer training tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock at the Fleming Center, right?
Do the ushers have to go?
Yeah, and if you want all the details about what, when, where, yeah, but otherwise, we'll just get y'all plugged in on Saturday morning. Okay. All right.
One other. It's the city manager's 37th wedding anniversary today, and he's spending it with us.
That's
Poor
right.
man.
I saw that.
Does that mean
Anniversary.
he's gonna be in the doghouse?
It's a real important day for her, but
Yeah, cut. Don't swing that.
she usually turns it off by now. So, but she knows I love her. It's a big day. It's not the first time we've had our anniversary on a council meeting day, so she's really understanding, but I appreciate it.
Happy anniversary.
Sue just likes reminding me how I'm older than her all the time. So
Mayor, can I
But
have
thank
one
you.
more,
Oh,
2
sure.
minutes?
One more few minutes.
Just 2 minutes.
Okay.
Tom, I want to express to you that I am completely impressed with your water department. Don't shame me here. We pay our water bill automatically, so I rarely look at it. And I had a spike in my water bill, and then the next month I had another spike, and your water department came out to my house and said, hey, you're doing something unusual. Let's check it out. And they came out and checked out the outside. I had one of my bathrooms that was intermittently just dumping water. It's been fixed, but I want you to express to your department heads or department guys that I was completely impressed with it.
Well, thank you.
That
It's
would be
good that Doty's here to see that, hear that. You'd be surprised how many people have those problems and still say it's our fault that's that way, so. But you're right, we do that a lot of times and we don't get the credit, so I appreciate you saying that, Chuck, thanks.
It's amazing those meters hold history, and they can look back, and they can tell if you flush your toilet at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, we don't want them to know that much, but yes. Thank you.
They'll come out every morning. Okay, it is 8:46, and we are adjourned. 7:46. Woo, my goodness. 7:46.